Okay, well, hello everybody, and again, thank you very much for asking me to speak. As it says on this slide, I'm going to talk about delivering business analysis as a service. But before I do that, I always like to think about things in context, and I always like to think about why. So to start off, I just want to do a little bit of going back into history, if that's okay. History of business analysis, not any other history, and just talk a little bit about the context and where I come from when talking about business analysis as a service. So back in 2013, so a few years ago, I was asked to give a keynote presentation at the BA Conference Europe. And this is what I talked about, the 3 waves of business analysis. And what I was trying to capture in this model was where I had seen business analysis over the decades come from, and where I felt it was heading and where the potential was. And in some circumstances and in some organizations where I felt it was. So I was talking to business analysts and working with business analysts who had moved beyond the original bridging role, moved beyond challenging to make sure that we were actually aiming for the right outcomes and the right solutions, and moving into an advisory role. And these were senior business analysts who were looking after analysis portfolios and who were prioritizing the work and who were making sure that the projects that were carried out were beneficial. They met the investment needs. They helped to execute strategy. It was a really terrific time, and I felt that the potential of business analysis was actually being achieved in some organizations, and those organizations and those senior BAs were giving us a route map, a way that we could go. A few years later, I was asked to revisit this, and when I did, I was disappointed because I felt that the enthusiasm and the potential had not been achieved as I had hoped and as I had seen back in 2013. And recently, it feels like there's been some sort of restriction, limitation placed on business analysis in many organizations. I speak to a lot of people who are finding frustration because they feel they could offer so much and it isn't allowed. But worse than this, I know of a number of lead business analysts whose practice have been cancelled, to use a modern term, and who have lost their jobs. And that to me is a very worrying development. And recently I was talking to a friend in this position, and she said to me that this was what one of the senior executives had said. Nothing ever goes wrong. So why do we need business analysts? And there is so much that is ironic about that statement, but it was really, really so painful to hear, particularly if, like all of us, business analysis is something we believe in so much. So I started to think about this when I was thinking about this presentation, and I'd spoken to Milena about talking about the BA service view and business analysis as a service. But I thought, let's explore what's going on a little bit first. And if this is the case, and if in some organizations there are issues, and if I'm honest, speaking to other BAs, I get the sense that there are a lot of business analysts who really want to move things forward, but feel they can't. Whose responsibility is this? And not so much whose responsibility is it for this going wrong, but whose responsibility is it to take on board the situation and move us forward? So is it the responsibility of the professional bodies, or in our case, our main professional body, IIBA? Is it the responsibility of the business analysts themselves? Is it the responsibility of our customers, whether internal or external, to understand business analysis? So looking at this in a bit of detail, I yesterday thought, well, okay, I'm going to explore our professional body's website. And this is the homepage. And I thought, so if I was somebody in, I don't know, another part of the business change or business transformation discipline, and I wanted to know about business analysis, is this where I would look? Well, if it is, this is the homepage. And then I searched through the website and found a definition, what is business analysis? And this isn't a summary because this is actually reproduced, but it's not the whole statement. And I thought, does this help? Now, I'm not saying it's intending to help people outside business analysis to understand the discipline. All I'm asking is, would it help if it was found? And the thing that struck me was, if you're a business analyst reading the definition, it makes sense. I'll be honest with you, I might query some of this a bit, but it does make sense because I can understand what it's saying. But would this be a source of information for people who aren't in the business analysis community in our world? And I don't think it is, and I don't think it would help that much. And I'll explain a little bit more about why I think that in a moment. So then I thought about actual business analysts. You know, business analysts have this opportunity. They're there, they're in their organizations, they can demonstrate what they can do. But over the last few years, I've been researching business analysis, and I've been really disappointed with some of the comments that have been made to me. Because I started the research in a world where I think all business analysts really, really are marvelous and really understand their craft. And then I was given these comments and people said this. And then at the BA Conference Europe, during the period while I was researching, my friend and co-author Christina Lovelock put forward a presentation called When BAs Go Bad. And she reflected some of the comments that I had seen and also commented on how some business analysts are just happy to take the notes, do see themselves as a BA with a title, but don't actually follow it through. And how some BAs don't build their toolkit and their skill set and just maybe fall back on understanding their organization or understanding the applications used, but don't apply analytical techniques. And of course, if that's the case, the work that is being carried out with our customers. So what does that say? And I have seen over the last few years, commentators and authors within the IT and change industry commenting on business analysis and business analysts in ways that are unhelpful. And while I might think that's unfair, on the other hand, if business analysts aren't helping the situation, then that's a major concern. One of the reasons why this is a major concern to me is one of the areas of research I looked at was role theory. And this is a summary of something that role theory says when you're looking at a particular discipline or community of work. And it says that if you have a really good person working in a particular role, a really great business analyst, say, the tendency is to think that's a brilliant person. So the individual has done a really good job. But if you have weak performance demonstrated, there is a tendency to dismiss the role. So we go from saying, Milena did a brilliant job, to, if there's weak performance on the part of another BA, BAs are not offering anything, they don't contribute. So the opportunity can be missed to really impress upon our customers and colleagues how excellent good business analysis is and the contribution it makes. The third area I considered was customers. Now, I don't know about you, but quite often I talk to people who are completely outside the world of change and IT. And business analysis is a term they don't understand. And if you talk about being a business analyst, sometimes they ask you to explain it. Now, anybody who knows me well knows that I'm an absolute devotee of the television program Friends. And I found this clip, and this really sums up the response I had from my dentist when I tried to explain business analysis recently. And I thought about it afterwards and I thought, where did I go wrong? Because she obviously was so bored with my explanation and it didn't seem to work. So looking at these three angles, I'm thinking, what's happening here? And how can we improve the situation so that actually we do have a good definition of business analysis, we do demonstrate excellent performance, and we are able to explain to people. One of the issues I think we have is that we are very good within the business analysis world, those of us who are committed and enthusiastic and dedicated to this role, we're very good at discussing it. We're very good at talking to each other. We're very good at having conferences and attending sessions, but it's a bubble. We're great at talking to each other. And within that bubble of enthusiastic, dedicated professionals, there's a huge amount of clarity, not just around what business analysis is, but how much we can contribute and why it's relevant. But unfortunately, outside that bubble, there is a huge amount of ambiguity. And so what I want to try and do is move beyond the bubble, basically, and build outside so that actually business analysis is appreciated everywhere and the importance of our role is understood. If we don't do this, I think we are facing a difficult future. Some of the things that I'm discussing with colleagues and friends within the business analysis world really worries me, and I don't want that to continue. And one of the reasons why I'm so interested and so much in belief about the service view is because I think it offers us a way of looking at things differently and helping. One of the TED Talks that I highly recommend to everybody, and I'm sure some of you have already seen it, is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It really resonated with me when I saw this talk because I think starting with why is absolutely where we should all be. Every organization, every discipline, every department, every team should ask why. What is the point of us? Why do we exist? And until we do that, we can't move on to discussing what it is we do and how we carry it out. And this was something that I thought about when I was thinking about explaining business analysis to my dentist, because I thought, actually, I think I know where I went wrong there. I was trying to talk about what we do and the techniques we use. And actually, I wasn't explaining anything that resonated with her at all in terms of why business analysis is carried out and the contribution it can offer. A service view is a way of looking at this. And I believe it is a way that is becoming more and more understood and more adopted. The research area is known as service science, which itself is an abbreviation of a longer title, which I will tell you is called Service Science, Management, Engineering and Design. So it covers all of those areas. What it's about at its heart, though, is understanding the nature of the term service. And this isn't delivering a service, that is part of it. But understanding service means understanding the concept of beneficial outcomes. They sometimes call it utility, which basically means what we get from it. And it looks at something that it calls service systems or service entities and how they interact. And due to these interactions, there is a co-creation of value from when service is delivered. So sometimes service science is defined as the study of value co-creation. And that's really important because that's about collaboration. That's about working together. That's about not making assumptions about value. And it's interdisciplinary. So it is actually working together as different service entities. And one of the things that really concerns me is where in our industry, if we call it the change in IT industry, there seems to be a lot of negativity with regard to other disciplines. And I feel that business analysis seems to be the target of this sometimes. But what service thinking and service science is about is understanding collaboration between disciplines. And I believe that's about professional respect as well, and understanding that we all have specialisms and specialist skills that have a part to play. And we need to understand how we interact to deliver service. But that doesn't mean necessarily delivering value. So we can look at this as a business change ecosystem. And I've put here some of the key stakeholder groups or service entities or service systems, if you want to call them that, within the business change ecosystem. And these different service systems have to work collaboratively. Because at the end of the day, what is it we're trying to achieve? You know, if we look at the outcome we're aiming for, surely it is for organizational success. It is to deliver something that works. But I don't know about you, I am finding over the last few years that the quality of websites, of products, of services that are being delivered is just not good enough. And I wonder if that is coinciding in part with business analysis not being given the prominence that not only it deserves, but I think is needed. To give you a quick example, I bought a new car this year, and I was told that the onboard software product, the system, was absolutely tremendous. So on my dashboard, I would have this wonderful piece of software to work with. Well, I have to tell you that it is the most disappointing situation I have ever been in with a new car. The software, in my opinion, is poor. And not only is poor, it is dangerous. I often start before I drive by turning off certain elements. Some features I've been able to turn off permanently because I do not want them. And the next time the car goes into the garage, I'm going to ask them to turn off most of the features. It feels like a piece of software that was developed because technically it was possible, not because a customer actually wants it. And I keep saying every time I get in the car, much to the tedious feel of my family, where were the business analysts in this? Because in a business change ecosystem, all of these service systems and service entities have a role to play. And the analysis where we ask, why is this needed? What can it contribute is vital. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of talk about the product view, but within service science, the actual product-oriented mindset is a little bit outdated because, or limited maybe, because it looks at value delivery, and there's a lot of comments around products delivering value. The service view really focuses on the co-creation and the collaboration, but it also understands that value can't just be delivered. It has to be co-created through the use of the product that is delivered or the service that is delivered. If there is no use, there is no value. And so the collaboration and co-creation within the ecosystem has to include customers at all levels in order to make sure that value is realized. So if we're going to have a service mindset in business analysis, we have to understand certain aspects. I do read sometimes people talking about an outcome focus. And sometimes when I read about it, the outcome that is aimed for is the delivery of a product. Within a service mindset, though, if we're looking for beneficial outcomes, the outcome focus is on not the delivery of the product, but on this co-creation of something that is beneficial to the organization or to the particular entity or service entity that is the recipient. Therefore, it is highly customer-centric. It places the customer right at the center of what you do. But the customers have to be understood to be in different guises and to be internal and external to the organization. It has to be collaborative and it has to be holistic. So it can't just be on a product. It has to be on the usage of the product and how that fits within the broader ecosystem of the organization. So within business analysis, as part of my research, I developed something called the BA Service Framework. And this framework was intended to put something out there that people could work with. It is not the answer to every organization, but it sets out a suite of services that a BA service offering could look like. And so each one of these was intended to say, here are some of the things we can offer. Because I am really becoming round to the conclusion that it's impossible to define business analysis and the BA role in a sentence or a paragraph. There is too much to it. And therefore, if we can break it down, we might be able to communicate better with our customers, particularly if we use terminology and language that they understand. If we're looking at starting with why, though, then we can understand that these services have got to have value propositions, because to our customers, that's why. I mean, why would they want analysts to do some investigation of business situations and analyze problems? Why is that needed? This is the point where we can actually say to customers, this is why it's needed, this is why it's important, this is our value proposition. The key word being proposition, because without co-creation and collaboration, the value will not be realized. So this is a summary of some high-level value propositions that we might use as a basis for discussing with customers, or we might work with. But we have to remember that we can't guarantee any of them will deliver value. We can deliver the service, we can propose a value proposition, but we have to work collaboratively to co-create value by usage of what it is that is delivered. So this is a lot about why, and the service concept really helps us understand why. But then we can move beyond it to say, okay, well, if we now understand what the BA services are, if we can define them for our BA practice, or even for us as individual BAs, because the likelihood is one individual will not cover all of that. So if we can understand our why and our practices why and what the value propositions are, we can then start thinking about, well, what does that involve in terms of the work? And I like techniques like value streams, because when we are defining what, I really dislike detailed methods, because every context is different, and therefore we've got to be able to tailor. Whereas a value stream level gives us sufficient flexibility that we can define the higher level. We can even define in a bit more detail the detailed activities, but we leave open the opportunity for customization to context, because context is really key. And then beyond that, we can then consider the techniques and skills, the how. So how do we carry out these activities? And in doing that, we can build a set of techniques, a toolkit, if you will, and a skill set, and again, be adaptable and tailor to the situation. So nothing within this is prescriptive, but it is contextual, and it all relates back to why and understanding the service that is being offered. To put this fully in place, we need to think about a service architecture. It's funny, isn't it? Quite often in the architectural world of an organization, we talk about the enterprise architecture, we talk about the business architecture, the infrastructure architecture, the data architecture. Well, I think we need a service architecture. And the book that Christina and I wrote, Delivering Business Analysis, really focuses on elements of the service architecture and how they need to come together and the different things we need to look at. Because if we don't, for example, have the standards and the tools, then actually you can see why business analysts are maybe not doing their job well, because maybe they don't know what's possible for them to do, and they don't know the context and the constraints within which they're working. So we need to think about this and think about putting these things in place in order to have an architecture that supports a BA service. So if we're delivering a BA service, we need these elements there. as I've said a couple of times, we need to focus on delivering a service that offers a value proposition and to define the different elements that comprise that service. We need to make sure as business analysts that our toolkit and skill set is so good that we can tailor to context and that we're not just following an approach or a method. And having delivered the service, we need to collaborate with our ecosystem to create value and to co-create value. And that is what is really necessary if we are going to start breaking through and demonstrating how good we are and how much we offer. And we have to remember that customers come in all sorts of different guises. So our colleagues within our business change and IT part of the ecosystem are our customers as we are customers of them. And we need to show each other professional respect and work collaboratively and stop dismissing what people do. We need to think about the end user colleagues and the managers running the operational divisions and what they need and how they need to work with the external customers, the consumers, the partners and the resellers who actually ensure the organization's success moving forward. And so this is the service view that is holistic and collaborative and outcome focused. And if we can do this, I think we've got a better chance of breaking through the bubble. Because if we don't do it, we are talking to each other. And that is not helping. And in some organizations, it's not helping the organization, but the individual BAs could be struggling. And some of them may be struggling in a way that they think, well, okay, what is the point in trying to do a good job? And some of them may be struggling in a way that maybe they're frustrated. Many of you may work in great organizations where this isn't the case. And I really, really hope that is true. But there are too many people that I talk about who are expressing concerns. And I think a BA service view is going to really help us to overcome that. So just to summarize a few things then, I think the BA service view helps us to clarify what business analysis is, but it is very hard to clarify why we have business analysis. And I don't know about you, but as a customer, I am so tired of poor customer experience, poor websites, poor interactions, and I could go into so many here, but I won't. And I know that business analysis can help. And if we can clarify, and if we can use a service mindset to offer that clarity, then maybe we can break through so that even for those of you who work in great organizations, we can make it even greater because there's so much potential. I've said this at so many events and seminars, but please can we stop talking about delivering value? Because in doing that, we're sort of making an assumption and we're also promising something that isn't achievable. If we can start talking about co-creation of value and realizing value through use and ensuring collaboration, then I think we have a better basis for really helping organizations to succeed. To put a BA service in place, we do have to think architecturally. I do think that the rise of the architectural mindset and world has been incredibly helpful for organizations if it's done well, but we can also apply it to ourselves because if we think architecturally, we think holistically, and that helps us to put things in place and avoid problems. And lastly, let's keep all of the customers right at the heart. People sometimes say that people say they have a customer focus, but they don't actually live it. I think business analysts are the people who can live it and help their organizations to do so. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope some of that resonated with you. I really do feel that business analysis as a service has so much to offer if we can take on board some of the ideas that service thinking and service science gives us.